Alright, the next section we have on the CDJ is the hot queue section. Our hot queue sections are only found on the more expensive, the higher model CDJs, but they're very useful and they can actually be, like I mentioned earlier, stored onto SD cards and things like that. So if you have a collection of tracks you play with commonly, you can set up hot queues, potentially in Rekordbox, which I mentioned earlier, and the CDJ will automatically load those cue points. For example, I commonly set up hot cue points to the start of the track, the first kick drum, the first bass drop, and potentially the first breakdown. So that I have these kind of bookmarks or shortcuts I can skip through all my tracks with. Now the hot queue functionality is very simple. We've got two different modes, either store mode or set mode, and recall mode or I guess use mode. So if I want to put a hot cue down, I can, for example, scroll through there until I find this kick here, and then I can hit that hot cue button. You can actually see there's a little A there, which indicates that the hot cue has been set there. If I then go back into hot cue use button, you can see that first hot cue, A, is now lit green to say that I have a hot cue in that slot, whereas B and C are currently unlit, which says I don't have a hot cue in that slot, and there's nothing will happen when I hit those buttons. Now, the hot cue buttons are much simpler than the cue button. They don't have all the mode switches, they don't have all the contextually specific stuff. So literally, if I hit hot cue A, it will go back to hot cue A and it will start playing. Relatively straightforward. And if I'm currently playing, if I hit hot cue A, it will go to hot cue A and it will just keep playing. So you can quickly shuffle around in a track, you can move around and it will keep playing. Whereas obviously with this cue, often called the floating cue, down here, if I hit that cue button while we're playing, it will go back to the cue button and it will stop. So hot cues are good for bouncing around a track, manipulating, and they're good to have kind of stored bookmarks at different points in a track. And if I want to replace that hot cue, I simply scroll through to a new point here and hit it again, and it will just store it in a new place. Very straightforward.